Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas and Swadee all the way from Bangkok. I hope you all are having an amazing Christmas. And for those of you who are joining, I'm super thankful that you decided to join today on Christmas. Obviously, you want to know more about being able to create meaningful and really deep connections with family around this time. And so we'll give people a couple of minutes to kind of trickle in, and whether you're cooking because you're going to be seeing your family later on, or you're just tuning in because this is your home and you're part of the Global Grit community, which is awesome, or you just wanted to take a sneak peek and see what I'm up to, I welcome you. I thank you for joining, and I'm super, super grateful. Obviously, as I was thinking about it, my team and especially my love partner also asked me, why are you doing this on Christmas Day? I'm all in Christmas garb here. For me, Christmas has always been a time, ever since I was a little girl. Um, it's been one of those holidays where after losing my mom, my brother, and my dad, it was my way of really wanting to have that connection with my family. And that means my extended family. So all of my aunts, my uncles, my cousins on my mom's side and on my dad's side. And I really felt that I wanted to really hold on to, family tradition. And so, not only do we have a special prayer that we do on Christmas, but I wanted to really share that with all of you as a way to, how to really build, connection with family members that you only see once a year. And sometimes it could be really, it could be trying because you're not seeing them all the time. And it could definitely bring up, wounds. It can definitely bring up, things from the past that haven't been resolved yet, or that uncle that, continuously asks the same questions, or, your aunt that is constantly swimming in face of, problem after problem after problem, and or the cousin that is still asking you the same things, and you've completely evolved. So during the holidays, it could be a way for you not to want to hang out with family, and it could also be very very stressful. And I'll be very honest here. About 5 years ago, during this time, in the middle of the night, was when I actually left my dangerous and abusive marriage, actually. And there's a lot of transformation that also can happen during the holidays, right? So it's a time for reminiscing, and whether you have family, whether this is your family, whether you have fears about going into family, I'm going to share with you, 4 different ways to actually really be present and actually be the light. Because, for so many years, for my brother Vinay and I, we just had each other. And while we had our aunts and we had, so many extended family members, it couldn't really replace our parents and our brother. And so, as much as, you kind of sometimes are afraid of fights breaking out during Christmas, and having storms of conversation, it's really all about embracing the quirks and being able to see things from actually 3 words that mean so much to me. And I'm going to share this with you, is it's the perception and it's the perspective and it's the meaning behind some of these old stories. So, you might have, a running pattern with maybe one of your family members or two of your family members. Maybe you're in transition and, maybe you've decided to leave a toxic relationship, or 2017 is going to be this big year, this big leap. And, whatever murky waters you're in right now, savoring the quirkiness of your relationship, saving the specialty of being around family that all they know is what they know, right? And because you're sitting here, you're watching this, whether you're paying attention fully or you're just listening to the audio, you're here because you want to know more. And, while sometimes we can be tested, because you know more, you can actually operate from a different lens. And so maybe it's that same story that they continuously talk about year after year, and how life kind of punched them in the face, and that's the only problem that they have that they can actually hold on to, right? And so it's up to you to kind of act in a different way. And so while we have this, and while I'm sharing this, so passionately with all of you, because I am miles and miles away from my home on Christmas, we have quite a few things that happen during the holidays, right? It allows us this sense of, expansion, this sense of play, this sense of, childlike magic, this childlike wonder. Obviously, I'm dressed up as, Santa's little helper, but, it allows us to really get back into that childlike state again. And, when you're operating from that, there's definitely magic to have. So, so the first thing is you want to be able to, whether you're in a family of 2 or a family of 20, or maybe it's with a bunch of friends, but allow that time for, being able to reminisce. So number one is to just, allow yourself to be in that state of wonder and reminisce. Maybe you can think of 2 or 3 really amazing memories and really awesome times of you guys together as a family, or perhaps it's it's watching Home Alone, or whatever. Obviously, a lot of times during this period in this season, the same holiday movies keep replaying, and that's really to get us back into that state. So really, as much as we run our lives, because most of you are achievers, most of you have so many things going on, and as we get busy, we don't allow ourselves, we think we're too good for our families, and we think, okay, they'll never understand what we're going through, or you've reached a certain peak or a certain state, and they don't really even know or understand what you're doing with your life. And so, but there are times where you can connect, and there has been times that you can connect in the past. So number one is really to allow yourself to go back into that childlike magic and reminisce 2 or 3 amazing memories. And so the next one, and I actually wrote it down here because I wanted to make sure that, we were on time, so that you can actually, whether you're going to rewatch this again or write some notes, you can actually be prepared. But, praising goes a long way. And, we kind of underutilize this, especially when, when we grow and we shift and we change, it's sometimes so hard for our families to really accept that. And I'll tell you a really quick story. When I was going through my immense growth, I had just left my toxic marriage, and I had gone to several different retreats, and from yoga to meditation to traveling the world, and really getting trained with some of the greatest leaders on my own leadership. I started to ask different questions, and part of me in asking different questions, I wanted to really appreciate and praise the people around me. And so, I started doing this with my family when I would see them often, especially during the holidays, especially during this time. And, everyone, everyone, no matter what, no matter how negative they might seem on the outside, or how many rules they might have on you as to what you should be doing, and their perception of you as, all of those barriers drop as soon as you give them praise, because every single human being loves praise. And so if you can find, just maybe one thing that you can praise, your Uncle Sam, or your, Aunt Sally, or, the narcissistic Priscilla who constantly has problems in your family, whoever that is, and just make them feel really amazing. That definitely goes a long way, and that for sure changes the state of whatever dynamics you have, and taking that time to really, be that light and actually share that love with those around you. And you might actually cringe when you're doing it, but you actually might find joy. And I ask you to really, step into that place of being able to provide that love and that warmth, because essentially that's really all they really want, and that's all they desire is, we all want to be heard, we all want to be seen, and just that tiny little shift can do so much, simply because, you know, a lot of times in families, and I get this a lot, you don't think about me anymore. You're so busy traveling the world. You're so busy helping all these other people. Who am I to you anymore? Oh, you're too big for me, or and I still get this with my family, that I love so dearly, but it's just because things change, and so many humans don't like change. They don't like change so much that they're going to do whatever it takes. Well, and if this is the only time they see you, they're going to poke holes, and they're going to constantly poke holes and poke holes, meaning that they'll say things, to try to see if you'll come back down to that level that you were maybe 5 or 10 years ago, right? And you're a very different level because you've evolved, right? And that takes a certain level of patience. And so praise for sure goes a long way. So definitely utilize that. Number 3, gratitude. When we're celebrating gratitude and the art of prayer during this time, that goes a long way. And I don't care how many fights I can recall having. We all have dysfunctional families to some degree, right? From growing up to, running from, family to family, because I have so much extended family, in Chicago where I grew up. I was such a people pleaser, and I would host as a kid while my mom was, in the hospital dying of cancer. I literally, as a 15-year-old, I would host all of my cousins and family and uncles and aunts at my house during Christmas. And so just to have so many people over and to have all of that. And, we started this very, very early on. And obviously, growing up Catholic, we would extend and say the Rosary, but what it really ended up being was each of us, took something that we were really grateful for, and so we started doing this tradition early on. But I kept it on, as something my brother and I just did, by ourselves when after my brother passed away, and even as a tradition with my dad. And so, obviously for 2 kids kind of, being orphaned, a lot of times, our bonding together was fighting as kids. And so the one way that I would actually bring us back was through gratitude. And, just being able to say thanks for, even when you feel the shittiest, actually can change your state in a matter of seconds. And, collectively as a group, no matter how big or small your family is, just being able to say grace and just being able to be present. And, these are tips that you can actually do today, and say, I would like to say a toast of grace or gratitude, from blessing the food to, blessing the world that we live in. And, especially now when, there's so many of these videos that showcase what's going on in places like Aleppo or Lesbos, where there's so many families and so many refugees being torn away. There's so much of a glimpse that you can take away into your own life, that you are blessed. You truly are, and you there's so much to be grateful for, right? So especially today, being able to share a meal with another person. And if you are by yourself, if you don't have any family, I guarantee you there is something to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for you joining in today. So if you can pass that forward, that not only changes and causes some magic inside of you, but also it puts things in perspective, right? And so many times we just forget about that. So now the last two are some fun ideas that you can actually utilize to practice with, your own family, your groups of friends. I've done this in a variety of scenarios, from leaders to their teams to companies to corporations to my own family, actually, and I'll tell you how it started, to different friend circles, naturally, and why this was also so important for me to share with you today and to come live was, I've always been a connector. I've always been a relationship builder. I think that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do was, create community ever since I was little, and which is why I started hosting people even as a teenager. Just following suit with what my parents actually instilled in us and in creating this family community. And then, of course, doing this at a bigger level with friends, with communities that I have around the world. And now you being my extended family, even though I don't really know each of you, but please shout out and share your notes and your praise and your levels of gratitude and your blessings that you'll be sharing with others, because I totally receive it and I totally appreciate all of it. But I started this quite a few years ago when, I was so curious about growth and I was growing exponentially. And, at every family event, in my family, we have so many aunts and so many women that dominate the house that, a constant discussion is always about gossip and who's getting married and who's getting a divorce and who's got another kid and another kid and another kid and, who's getting into trouble. That there's really no meaning. And I would get really, really upset because I just wanted the best for my family. And I was like, this is, we could definitely talk about so many other things. And then you have the TV blaring in the background, whether it's football or war or, the news happening. And I'm sure all of you guys relate to this because it's real. In one of the family parties, you had the elders would play this game in my Filipino family, mahjong, where they would actually, they would be gambling for hours, and then in the basement the kids would be playing like video games, and then the young adults would be like playing the piano and dancing actually, and so a lot of our parents would just sit down in front of the TV and actually watch watch the news or watch football. And so we're present, but we're not really present. And especially for family that you only see once a year, a way to really have deeper meaning and a deeper connection. I took it upon myself to actually say one year, you know what, let's close the TV. And I actually did this beginning with, both my aunts on my mom and my dad's side and my brother, quite a few years ago. We took them to, Puerto Rico. And, what we did was started to kind of just, ask some of these different questions because everyone's a storyteller. And, for those of you who have family members who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, as they age, as they get older, the stories stick and their patience doesn't. And I think that, and if any of you come from Asian backgrounds, I think it gets even harder, for our aging elders. That how do we actually create a sense of meaning with them? And so here are some tips that I'm going to share with you that has basically worked profoundly. And now we do this during our FaceTime hangouts together, but we also do this actually at family get-togethers. So, the first question I would always ask is, what is your highlight? And so, question for this, season would be, what was your highlight of 2016? What was the thing that you're most proud of? And then the second would be, what would you hope to achieve for the next year or for 2017? Maybe it's a new workout routine that they've been, talking about, and then it gets into maybe your New Year's resolution, but keep it simple. What is one thing that they want to achieve out of 2017? Maybe it's another, family vacation that you can plan. I know that when, we started to do this ritual with my family, and now every year we make it a point to actually do something annually. And so, it starts out by, taking the time and taking initiative to really, be that force, be that light. And I'll tell you, this wasn't something that happened overnight. Actually, I just took it upon myself to really, do this with a bunch of our family when we were all together, because, like, I know, and we made it a game, and it was like, all right, guys, let's play a game, let's do something different, and we kind of sat around in a circle, and it just literally took 20 minutes. But in that 20 minutes, and I know some of you guys understand what I'm talking about, you just gain so much insight when you actually, take a minute to pause and pay attention to some of the stories when you actually ask different questions. And asking those questions are, such a game changer. And I can't wait to hear what happens when you actually do that as well in your own families. And so, number 3 would be, name your biggest challenge. What was your biggest challenge this year? Maybe it was a business deal that didn't go well, or, maybe somebody was suffering in silence. Maybe, there was, life happens to each of us, right? And so many of us, don't want to talk about some of the downfalls. And I know in my family, a lot of times things would be shoved under a rug. Nobody wants to talk about, the negative things, right? But as a family, it comes out in the most weird, awkward, inopportune way, and you're fighting and you're screaming, and, and people are running out of the house. That's how, like, the elephant in the rug would get out, instead of actually sincerely asking, what was your biggest challenge? Maybe somebody was diagnosed with something. Maybe, there was, life happens, and there was, a brief season of sadness for whatever reason, but you'd never know unless you actually ask. I know for my aunt, a few years ago, actually, when I asked this question, she was going through a series. She's actually in her late 60s, and she was going through a series of all of her girlfriends, her really, 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 really close girlfriends, who also were all widowed. They were getting diagnosed with cancer, and you're reaching that age where all of your best girlfriends are actually diagnosed, and she had lost 2 of her friends that year to different kinds of cancers. And that was a big blow to my aunt, but nobody would ever know, because she has this, prim and proper, amazing face that she puts on to everybody. But really, she was suffering, in deep depression. And none of us would ever know unless we actually asked that question. And it was so beautiful for her to actually actually come out and share, how, she actually felt, because her relationships were with these women for 35, 40 years, and they've been through so much together. And my aunt, she travels the world, and so it was also interesting because you see, kind of not the fears of end of life or end stage of life, but just, how so many of us were kind of in our zone to build our legacy at this moment. And, it's almost nice to see a different perspective when you're actually just open. So, the next question is, what would you like to do less of next year? So maybe you can make this one a funny one. Less complaining, or less working, or less smoking, or less drinking. But, we would all kind of create a tally of, all of these. And then, 6 months later, when we would see each other at Easter, or, and I don't know if you guys have a routine or something, but maybe you do something different, where you guys check in 6 months and see, if you're actually doing that. So again, these are all suggestions, take them or leave them, but I hope you actually just take a nugget and actually spread that, because the idea is really to, when you ask different questions and you actually pay attention to the answers that you get, there is magic that happens. And, being able to open up with, curiosity and just this level of presence goes a very, very long way. And lastly, what would you do? What would you do more of? So what would you do less of, and what would you do more of? Maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe it is finally going to the gym, or eating less of that stuff, whatever that stuff is. But with our families, we can all kind of share common health goals. That's a huge one, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you on, some of these questions. And so as I'm rounding this up for you, when we change the meaning of the way that we open ourselves up to our family, and if we lead with resistance, with less resistance, and if we lead with more love and more warmth, and, just absolute curiosity, there's so much magic that can happen on the other end. So I just want to say I love you all. I thank you so much for joining here, and I hope that you share some of your glimpse into the insights that you gain from hanging out with your families today, whether it's running amok, and you have 4 different Christmases like I used to have. I would go from morning family, middle, and then evening, and then the next day, and the next day. Try to have some time to really enjoy the people that you're with, wherever they are. And for those of you who might be having and experiencing the holiday blues, what is it that you can be grateful for, today, allowing yourself to take away today. And if you wanted to join our tribe, I'm doing this really amazing accelerator with only 10 incredible humans, and we're starting this. It's called the Emotional Grit Accelerator, and I'll be coaching people live for 6 weeks. It starts the first week of January. We're just gonna run right at it. And if you're looking for a community, if you're looking for time to really step up into your game for 2017, bring it on, and I'd love to see you on the other side. And you can apply here on the link on the right hand side. It's emotionalgrit.com/accelerator, and the tuition for the program is $1,500 for 6 weeks. It's pretty sweet. It's so awesome, and I can't wait to be working with you in the new year. And for those of you who want to tune in again, I will be doing a live New Year's training, so mark your calendars. Absolutely, we're just going to start because, why not be your best self in 2017? And, you investing in yourself is the best way to actually get that started. So that will be live January first, so don't drink too much on the night before. It'll be 2 hours, and we will definitely be going into strategizing that. So, my dears, my loves, Merry Christmas, and spread the joy of warmth as I'm doing the same with my love bug here in Bangkok. Mwah. Good night, or good day. Bye.